Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Well, I just recently read an article on one of the photo sites. I can't remember if it was Petapixel, F-Stoppers, or one of the others. It was probably one of those two, by a professional photographer, 30-year pro, who was looking back and had some regrets about going into professional photography and not just keeping photography, pretty much a hobby. And so I thought I would talk about that because I think it's really, if you are really enjoying photography, but you're not a professional, you're doing it as a hobby, you just enjoy going out and taking photographs. For a lot of people, the temptation comes along to become a pro, and it can be various different ways of that happening. Somebody sees your photos and says, "Oh, that's great. Would you photograph this for us?" And you might be tempted to do that for free. And if it's a family member or a close friend, I don't have a problem with that. If you get into something where somebody asks you, "Oh, I have a wedding and there's going to be 500 guests," don't do that for free. That's a lot of work. And also, if you don't know what you're doing, you're just asking for a disaster. So you gotta be really careful. If you're thinking that you might want to become a professional photographer, things are different today from when I got into it. And of course, we have this current situation with, a lot of instability and no guarantees that in going forward, a business is going to be able to, and it doesn't matter what business you're starting, you really have to be aware of what the economic conditions are going forward and what the probability of your success is. So yeah, if you really enjoy photography, perhaps the thing to do, and kind of my recommendation right now, is enjoy the photography. Go out, take photos. If you like taking photos of people, that's fine. If you want to go do street photography, that's great. You can do that, and it can be a hobby. Chances are you're not going to make a load of money if you start trying to sell stuff as stock, but you can try. And I think it's true for any business. So Beth and I we own two businesses: our photography and website building business, which, for the websites, most of what Beth does these days is train people on WordPress. I mean, she can set people up with, a training program. She can also do maintenance on existing sites. So that's actually a fair amount of business, is actually maintaining sites for people. People are really busy. If you have a website, you really need to be paying attention to your back end and keeping stuff up to date. So that's something. She has several people who pay her a monthly fee to do that for them. So that's probably not going to go away. My photojournalism, probably not going to go away. In fact, it may pick up. I may become very busy given what's going on these days. We have another business. I'm not going to get into what it does, but last year we did really well with it. But it really is dependent on the economy being in pretty decent shape. And what we've seen as we look down the road, that this year, that business is probably not going to do as well. The great thing about that business is it has minimal expenses, like minimal. I mean, we sit back and don't do anything, it's going to stand pat. It's not going to lose money. The point I'm trying to make here is, if you are going to start any business, you have to be really serious about it. You have to do a business plan. You have to figure out how it is you're going to be able to pay your bills. As I mentioned before, sometimes it happens where people ask you, they see your photography and they ask you to do it. And really, for me, back in the 2000s, I started doing photography for people, and one of which was an elected official who, after a couple times, said, "We need to pay you. We need to pay you." I think the main thing is, because if you're doing something like that for an elected official, at least under Illinois law, that's an in-kind contribution. So they had to pay me because it was a service that I was providing. And that opened up a lot of doors for me. I mean, that got me into photographing some very well-known, very important people. You can't rely on luck. You just can't rely on luck. through most of my career, my full-time job has been selling laboratory instrumentation and sometimes lab consumables. And frequently I would cover a very large territory. I mean, at one point I was covering the entire midsection of the United States, north of, Nebraska, Missouri, Kentucky, those states north to the Canadian border, and also Montana, which was cool because I'd go out to Montana 2 or 3 times a year. It's, University of Montana in Missoula, Montana State in Bozeman. Very picturesque areas. Always have a small digital camera with me. But I also covered Western Canada. So I built a travel portfolio. So if you're in a position where you're traveling and you're getting paid to do that in some other area rather than photography, take photos as you go along. You can use your phone. Probably better off getting a small, compact digital camera, because I still think, this is an iPhone 16 Pro. I still think cameras do a better job, unless you shoot raw on the iPhone. Photos look best if you shoot raw on the iPhone. So I'm kind of rambling here, but I just want to make sure that people who are considering this are being very, very careful right now, and that it may be best for you to keep this as a hobby and enjoy it, have fun with it. And actually, right in these conditions, a hobby is a good thing. A hobby is a good thing. If you're being bombarded, you feel like you're being bombarded with all this information and all this news, it's a good idea to go out with a camera or your phone, take a walk, go into the woods, get your mind off of things, take photographs. Well, hopefully that's useful to people. If it was, hey, pop the like button. Any questions or comments, pop them down below. I'll get to those as soon as I can. I'm Todd Banner. I will see you next time.